Stage Wonder coming at you from my van down by the river. So I guess today is Bouncer Day. I just did a video about my Kurt Cobain story, and one of the main characters in that story was a bouncer I knew. And I was kind of hard on that bouncer. I was kind of showing you the dark side of that job. But now I'd like to kind of celebrate the bouncer. You know, they're kind of unsung heroes in the nightclub world. And I was always pretty tight with the bouncers. I mean, first of all, knowing the bouncer and more importantly, them knowing you means I can come in and out of this club when I'm not working anytime without having to pay or show ID. And a lot of times I can just walk in with whoever I'm with and they'll nod and let me in. So, you know, knowing the bouncer, knowing the doorman, you know, that's a pretty big deal. You know, that's something if you're smart, you work out. So I've known some really great bouncers and some not so great bouncers. But to me, there's three bouncer stories that really stick out. Story number one is, I think, about the best bouncer I've ever known. A man known as Beard. I wish I could give you his real name. He has one. It's not a big secret. I just don't remember because everyone always called him Beard. Well, because he had this big old beard. But Beard was very good at his job. And I think that was best demonstrated one night when a fight erupted at one of our concerts. This would have been at the break between the midnight, the end of the set, and the beginning of the midnight set. So this would have been set 3, the beginning of set 3 on a 4-hour night. And so right on that break, this fight erupts. Our music was really diverse, so what it was doing, it was bringing in people who weren't from that music scene, and that's why that bar was so packed. That's why we fire-coded that bar almost every time we played there. Once we got to a certain level in our career, because it was just like this. You couldn't even hardly move around in there, and so there were a lot of really diversified people, older, middle-class people who had heard us on the radio and wanted to come check out the show, you know, to people that were maybe into jazz more than they were into, you know, rock. And then, you know, that scene was kind of retro hippie punk. And so, you know, there was a really diverse group of people. One of the most diverse groups I've ever played for, to tell you the truth. And it was just the time and the place when worlds collided. And they did this night when this table full of local kind of hipsters of the time and some SMU jocks, some, I guess you'd call them frat boys, and their girlfriends, and this fight erupted between these two gentlemen, and Beard was right on the spot. I was about to start to, you know, put myself between them and the stage, so if it got bad, I could protect my keyboard rig. That's just my MO. It's what I always did, save the keyboard. You know, watch the stage, watch the speakers, you know. So pretty soon, I mean, right on the spot, as soon as it heated up and everyone could tell, hey, a fight is about to break up, you know, the shoving and the pulling a little bit. And he just shows up, puts hands on each of them and says, gentlemen, you're both going to need to exit the bar right now. It's over. Leave the bar. So tough guy, local, you know, hipster, fine. He leaves. SMU frat boy is a little drunker, and he decides that he's going to use this moment to stand his ground with this bouncer. And he's like, hey, you can't throw me out of here. I paid good money to be here. I brought all these people here to see this man. You know, I brought the rah, rah, rah. And all you hear is. So I knew that Beard carried a few things on his person, and one of them was a stun gun. And this would have been a time when stun guns weren't super common, and you just didn't automatically associate that smack, that clap of mini thunder, that little pop, snap, crackle with stun guns maybe as much as you do now after seeing them in movies and whatnot. So it was a mysterious loud noise, and, you know, it didn't even seem to be coming from anywhere. Just suddenly this sound, and then this guy just collapses. He just folds up like a suit. He just goes straight to the ground in a crumpled mess without making a sound. So it's a crack and a boom. And I swear, I never saw, he must have just pulled it out of his pocket, touched the guy, and stuck it right back in his pocket. Because I never saw the stun gun. I just heard it. And this frat boy goes down, and, you know, Beard reaches down and grabs the guy by the pant leg And then he turns, turns this way and heads for the door. And he's walking and he's dragging this guy through the dance floor. He's like, get out of the way, coming through. He's got this one guy by the pant leg, and he's dragging him by one leg. And this guy's out. He's like sprawled out, legs spread. He's like, he's just out. And he's dragging him through the bar, coming through, over the seam where the two older buildings are put together into one open area on the floor. It's not a step, but almost. The guy's head bouncing off of through the door, over the door jamb. You'll bonka with his head. Out on the street, still dragging the guy, pulls him parallel now to the street, rolls him over into the gutter. So now the guy's, he's like passed out, cold, dead in the gutter, right? And I followed him the whole way because I'm just fascinated. I'm like, the show can wait. I'm going to see what this is what's going on with this. And he drags this guy's almost dead body through the crowd, rolls him into the curb. Then he reaches into his great big giant shorts because he was a big man and he wore these big, I guess he needed lots of stuff in his pockets. He had his cargo shorts on back when nobody really wore those. And he pulls this big phone out because, it is it is the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And, yeah, no, I got another drunk. Can you guys come pick him up? I think he needs to sleep it off. Yeah, this is Beard over at Dada. Yeah, can you come by and pick this guy up? I think he'll feel better in the morning. All right, thanks. Beep. Not 30 seconds later, Dallas police cruiser. Lights on. Two cops get out. They grab the guy out of the gutter and they pick him up and he's starting to come around now. He's shaking it off. He's like, oh. And he's like, he hit me. And the cop goes, shut up, you drunk. You can sleep, because the guy smells like liquor because he really was lit. He was really drunk, And like, you can sleep it off in the drunk tank, mister. And they stuff him in the back of the police cruiser because they were double parked, and whoop, off they go into the Dallas night. So that's the story of Beard. There was another bouncer in Deep Ellum at the time that worked at a nightclub that did Latin music, like a lot of Afro-Cuban salsa, stuff like that, like good stuff you can dance to, And so it always had a diversified Dallas group of people that went there. And they had, jazz, Latin jazz artists come through all the time. And I cannot remember this man's name, but somebody out there is probably going to watch this video and go, oh, I remember that guy. This bouncer was the biggest man I have ever seen in my entire life. He was African-American, or maybe Mediterranean, not Mediterranean, but like Jamaican, or he was from the Caribbean. He had an accent, I believe. I wish I could remember his name. I just remember the immense size of this man. He was so tall. He was, I would say, if I remember right, he was over 7 feet tall. And broad-shouldered and thin of frame, but just big. Just like, I don't know, like you took a 6-foot-tall linebacker and stretched him out another foot. And his hands were so big that I would reach up and I would look up to him, and I felt like a little boy. And I was like, hello, big man. And his whole hand would just go around my hand, and my hand was like, felt like a small child around this guy. And he had a deep, thunderous voice like that. And honestly, I've seen him break up a few things just by going, that's enough, with this enormous bass voice. And I did see him as I was driving by one night, handling two men that were trying to fight each other, and it was rather funny since he had extremely long arms. And this guy he had one guy out here stiff-armed on this side, another guy out here stiff-armed on that side, and he was holding them apart, stiff-arming them like that, and talking them down while they were trying to slug each other and slug him, and it looked like a grown man dealing with 5-year-old children. So he has to get the number 2 spot just for being given the God-given gifts of being the biggest man around. And I've seen him diffuse situations just by walking up. And it kind of goes like this. Like you're whatever you're doing, and then you see the guy walk up and you go, whoa. And you just suddenly, all the fight goes right out of you. And then finally, I'd like to cap off my bouncer video with the time I saw a very large security team at an enormous honky-tonk. This would have been at a place called the... what's it called? It's and dance house and steakhouse. It's out in Rockwall. Oh, I can't believe I can't remember the name of the bar. Well, if it comes to me, I'll give you the name. But this is a big honky tonk, like Billy Bob's kind of big, like Gillies in the movie kind of big, and Southern Junction. There it is, Southern Junction. If you get a chance, it's still open. I'm sure they're still giving great honky tonk music out there. Good place to get steaks. Love the steaks there. Big dance floor, huge place. I saw an enormous barroom brawl break out there that involved, I think, about 75 to 100 people. And it was, when you included in all of the security and everyone that got involved. And of course, with good honky-tonk tradition, the band did not stop playing through all of this. But there were 2 tables, and the way they do this, because it's a steakhouse and it's so immense, that imagine like cafeteria tables. But all these people are drinking and dancing on this big dance floor with this live band on this huge stage. It's bigger than 2 or 3 tractor trailers put together. Big place, big bar, big. Texas, right? And so there's these 2 tables right side by side, and it starts by these women yelling back and forth at each other. Rah, 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 rah. Pretty soon somebody throws a cup, and then 2 guys on each side stand up. And then they just go over the table at each other. And now it's just fists flying and tables flying. And this builds and it grows and it encompasses this table and that table. And some people are just climbing over other people to get away, like rats, you know, in a flood, trying to get on top of whatever they can to get out of there. And some people are getting into it, and it's drawing other people into the fight. And it's just getting bam, 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 hats flying, bam, tables flying, boom, boom. And it happens so fast. The response. And I got to tell you, this is absolutely the best team response I have ever seen in a nightclub. Hats off to these guys. This would have been probably around 2000, 2001 when this happened. And the whole side of that bar, I didn't know, was this big door that didn't look like a door. And I never acknowledged it as a door. It was the wall. But the wall of this honky-tonk opened up, like these big doors opened up. And then a bunch of these guys came out of nowhere. You know, and I knew them. There were some barbacks and other people, but they had a plan. Like, they were prepared for some stuff like this. And they took these long cafeteria tables, and they flipped them on their side, and they used them as battering rams. And they rounded up everybody that it was in this knot of fists and hats and beer bottles, and it was just... And they shoved the whole mess right out the door. That wall opened up, and they shoved these people right out that door, and then they shoved the door behind them. And the bar was like a third less full, but everybody was going, ah, and waitresses come out of nowhere, and they're cleaning up glass, and they're moving the tables back and picking the chairs up, and everybody's going, whoa, and some people are leaving, but we never stopped playing. And I can hear when the police come up from outside, the sirens, and we finally we took a break, because it was time for our break, and they spun up the music, the house music, and I was able to go out and see the mass arrest while I believe it was the Rockwall police carried all of these people off to the drunk tank for fighting at this honky-tonk. So this is a musician's hats off to all of the bouncers that I've worked with, the good ones and the bad ones. You guys do a valuable job, and oftentimes it's dangerous. And but there's how 3 different stories show the great side of bouncers. So thanks, guys, for keeping us all safe. Till next time.